Good day to you, dear grade 7 learner. I hope you're ready for another lesson in mathematics. I am teacher Phoebe, and I will be teaching you today about the properties of the operations on integers. This is based on the 5th competency in the Most Essential Learning Competencies Guide under the grade 7 mathematics. So, what shall you learn today? For this 4th lesson, you will be using Module 7 entitled Properties of Operations on Integers. Module 7 will guide you to describe the different properties of the operations on integers, classify equations and expressions according to the properties that they illustrate, and demonstrate how these properties can be applied on equations and expressions as well as other real-life situations. As much as possible, read and work on these modules independently. But if you find some parts difficult, there's always people beside you to help you. They may not know all the answers, but with patience and perseverance, at least they can help you understand better. After each activity, note down your scores on the score sheet shown on how well did I do, and remind your guardians to write on them too. The What I Know part contains a pre-assessment of your knowledge about this lesson. This part will check if you have any knowledge about the lesson. So try to answer these 15 items, then see if you got these correct answers according to the answer key on page 29. Take note, faking your score is not the right way to learn, so be honest. If you got 15 items correctly, this means that you know this topic, but you are still highly encouraged to go through the modules. If you got less than 15 correct answers, don't worry, you can still improve, especially as you learn the lesson in this module. Now, before you go through the rest of this video module, I am assuming that you're already done with this part. If you did not, then you should do that first before we continue. Done? Then let's proceed. In Module 6, you studied how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers. Let's do a quick drill on that to see if you understood the lesson perfectly. No calculators, please. What is negative 8 added to positive 12? Did you get positive 4? Because that's the correct answer. What is positive 7 subtracted from negative 3? Was your answer positive 4? Because that's not the correct answer. The correct answer is negative 10. What is negative 8 multiplied with negative 11? Is your answer 88? Correct, but is it positive or negative? Yes, that should be positive 88. Finally, what is 72 divided by negative 9? You got it right. It's negative 8. Fantastic! We can now continue with the review activity on what's in on your own. For now, let's continue with the lesson. In the What's New part of your module, you are given a series of symbols to interpret. How are you going to do that? If you look closely at your surroundings, you can easily see symbols everywhere. A simple shape can be associated with a feeling, like this one or this one. Most especially, you can see that even in the native cloth that we cherish, woven as bags or nowadays popular as masks. In this activity, simply write what you understand, what you feel, what you think about the series of symbols that are shown. If you can describe it in a word, go ahead, write it. If a story pops out of your mind when you saw these symbols, feel free to tell it. Those symbols can mean anything at all, depending on how you feel about it. Work on that activity first before we move on to the discussion. Now, let's learn about the different properties of the operations on integers. First up, what do we mean when we say properties? What we're going to be discussing are actually patterns that mathematicians before us have already studied about. When you really enjoy working with numbers, you're going to eventually see that they behave in a predictable pattern. And that is what we know now as the properties of operations. When you use the word close, you think close the door, right? Just like that, the closure property simply means that when we do an operation on integers, our results should also be integers. Otherwise, it's not closed. The commutative property is all about the location or position of the integer in the equation. Even if you interchange the position of the integers in the equation, the answer will not change. Now, which operations can freely let you do that with the integers? Study the following examples and tell me which pair of equations will have the same answer. Is it A, 3 plus negative 5 and negative 5 plus 3? Is it B, 7 minus 5 and 5 minus 7? Is it C, negative 3 times negative 4 and negative 4 times negative 3? Or is it D, 8 divided by 4 and 4 divided by 8? If you answered A and C, then you are correct. Look at their answers. In letter A, 3 plus negative 5 is equal to negative 2. If you interchange negative 5 and 3 and add them again, then you're going to find that they have the same answer, still negative 2. If you didn't, better review your solution. The same is true with letter C, where you multiply negative 3 and negative 4. Even if you interchange them, you will still get the same answer, which is positive 12. So, what's wrong with B and D? In letter B, when you subtract 5 from 7, the result is positive 2. But if you begin with 5 and subtract 7 from it, so you have 5 minus 7, then the correct result in that expression is negative 2. They're both 2, yes, but they have different signs and therefore they are different answers. The same is true with letter D. 8 divided by 4 is 2, but 4 divided by 8 is 1/2. Obviously, they're two different answers. This only goes to show that you have to be extra careful where to place your numbers when you subtract or divide. But that won't make a difference in your answer when you add or multiply integers. Let's move on to the next property. The associative property is about the grouping symbols that you use in equations. The most common grouping symbol that you can use is the parenthesis, but brackets and braces are also used, especially when too many numbers have to be grouped together. This property shows that no matter what you group together in addition or multiplication, the answer will not be affected. Again, this is applicable to addition and multiplication only. Grouping will also change the answer to subtraction and division. Now, what is the distributive property about? Well, look at the word. Distributive meaning to distribute. This means that if we multiply a number to the sum or difference of two numbers, You will also get the same answer even if we distribute that number to the expression and get the sum or difference of their products. This property actually shows us two ways to solve this kind of problem. Let's discuss the first solution. Here, according to the rules of PEMDAS, we are going to do the operations inside the parentheses first. So we have 4 plus negative 7 is equal to what number? That's right, it's negative 3. Then we have the second step to this solution is after getting the answer to the operation inside the parentheses. We are going to multiply that answer to the number outside of the parentheses. In this case, 5. So 5 times negative 3 is equal to negative 15. Now we look at the second solution, or the one where we're going to apply the distributive property. What we're going to do in this solution is that first, we are going to multiply 5 to both 4 and negative 7. So we have 20 and negative 35. That is now what we're going to add together. Now, what's the result? You should get also negative 15. Amazed? You should be, because this only shows that there are two different ways or many different ways to solve a problem. Next, we look at the identity property. Let's learn about this property by making an analogy. So, when you look at the mirror, what do you see? If you don't see anything, then you must be a vampire. Ah, you see yourself. Just like that, if a number is added to 0 or multiplied to 1, these numbers won't be changed at all. For addition, 0 acts as the mirror to the integers, while for multiplication, that mirror would be 1. Again, this property does not apply to subtraction and division. Well, think about it. Even though 7 won't change if you subtract it from 0, but if you have 0 minus 7, then the answer is not going to be positive 7, like what it was before, but it becomes negative 7. Not to mention also that when you divide any number with 0, the answer will be undefined, or there is no such answer for division by 0. Lastly, we take a look at the inverse property. What comes into your mind when I say inverse? Yes, if you thought about reverse, opposite, different, then you're on the right track. The inverse property is about getting 0 when you add two numbers, or 1 when you multiply these two numbers. For addition, you get 0 if you add the same number to itself, but that number has an opposite sign. Take positive 5 for example. What is the opposite of positive 5? It's negative 5, right? Now, add negative 5 to positive 5. What's the result? If you do the operation right, then it's 0. When you add the opposite of a number, or what we formally call as the additive inverse of a number, then the answer is always going to be 0. Now, for multiplication, the answer will always be 1 if you multiply a number with its multiplicative inverse, or a number which is the reciprocal of the original number. Example, if you have positive 5, then its multiplicative inverse would be 1 over 5. Multiply those two together, you're going to get an answer of 1. These are the properties of operations that you have to take note of. Great job in following with the lesson. There are more activities in your module that will help you understand the properties of operations and how they are used in equations. Do the activities on the what's more part of your module by using what you've understood from this video. If you can, watch other videos about properties of operations if you think you need more information, or you may ask help from the others. To summarize the lesson, do the activity on what I have learned. To help you connect this lesson to real-life situations, you have the activity on what can I do. And of course, you have the last check on what you have learned in this module and other additional activities that you can do to improve your understanding of the lesson. In using this module, you can constantly check if you have done well in the activities through the answer key on page 29. Now, our motto is, honesty is the best policy, not only in your classroom, but also in your home or wherever you are. This answer key is not given for you to have an easy way out of the activities, but it is given for you to know that you are on the right path to learning. That's it for this module. Remember, this is the new normal now. You are in control of what you learn and how you learn. Read, practice, and persevere, and you will know. Happy learning!